Recording stopped.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me fine. And welcome to the Speaking Club. We will be waiting 5 minutes, or rather 2 minutes, for any other attendees to join, and then we will be starting our Speaking Club for today.
Recording in progress.
All right. Now let us start our speaking session for Ielts. Now, just before we start, I would like to talk about the fact that I will be reading every comment that is on the live, and then we will be having a very interactive session this time. And a lot of you will be speaking, will be commenting, and we will be going through it together. All right. Now, the topic for today's session, as somebody asked, is how to grade, how to talk about work, and what are some important phrases that you can use in your IELTS speaking. All right. So, with that, let's start our speaking club for today. Now, here's a little bit of an overview that I'd like to go through with you guys. I hope you guys are having a great evening so far. We're because about to make it better. Now, before we jump on the speaking club, let's introduce ourselves first. I'll start with mine. So my name is Laiba, and I will be your instructor for this session. I live in Pakistan with my family, and I also gave my IELTS exam 2 years ago, and the grade I received was 8 bands. The fact that you are here means that you are willing to give yourself a similar score or even higher. So let's talk about what I did, what you can do, and what are some of the best practices when you're preparing yourself for this exam. So with that, I've introduced myself, and now I want to talk more about you. So, the attendees, please unmute yourself one by one and introduce yourselves. Okay, now let me see through the participants. I have asked one to unmute. Alham, could you unmute and introduce yourself, please? And for the uh, attendees on the live, I would like to see comments about yourselves. Introduce yourself in the comments. I will be reading them out loud as well.
Hello,
Hello, Alham.
hello. My name is Ahlam. My major is English literature. I graduated 10 years ago. I have two daughters. The oldest one is Hala. The youngest one is Saba, 5 years old. I want to complete my higher education. So I'm here to practice speaking to get Ielts. Yeah, that's it.
That's a great introduction. Thank you for introducing yourself, Ahlam.
Welcome.
Now, on to Ahmed. Ahmed, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, of course. My name is Ahmed. I'm from Palestine, but I live in Saudi Arabia. I am now in first year in medicine college. I'm planning to do IELTS after 2 months. That's all.
That's great. That's great to hear. Thank you so much. Now, moving on to Muna. Could you unmute yourself and give us an introduction about who you are? What do you like? Hello, Muna. We have another attendee named Alanud. Could you unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, my name is Al Anoud. I live in Saudi Arabia and I'm here for practice to get a good grade in IELTS.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Now, no introductions in the comment section, I see. If anybody would like to introduce themselves, the stage is yours, and I will be reading out your comments of introduction. All right? Now, as you see in this overview, that we have an introduction, which we just did. Then we move on to a grading system, followed by how to beat the system. And then we have some warm-ups, some grammar practice, and some model answers that you can go through. At the end, we also have some special appearances of some video. All right. So let's tune in and let's start our session. Now, let's talk about how they score you in IELTS, because if they know how they're scoring you, you know how to beat that system. We've discussed this before in our previous club sessions, but I want to revise this specifically for the new listeners and the new attendees, okay? As well as revising it with those who were already here. So, does anybody know the 4 grading points for IELTS speaking? If you do, unmute yourselves and tell me how much you know about it. As for the comments, please do if you know or don't know this. Ahmed, do you know the grading points?
Yeah, it's interesting for in fluency and grammar and the vocabulary are you choose it, and also the the answer in topic, not go out from the topic and idea of the question. And that's all of what I know.
That's a great summary of it. And those are correct answers. So let's look into the grading system quickly before we move on. Now, the first thing that Emma says was fluency, which of course, now when it comes to fluency, it means how easily you are able to speak long sentences without noticeable hesitation or pauses or repeating yourself. Now, we move on to pronunciation. Pronunciation is how well you can pronounce your words without it being confusing to the other person. For example, saying ice cream and ice cream are two different pronunciations that sound similar. So you must be able to talk clearly so that the other person can understand which of them you said. Then we have vocabulary, is how well you know your English, how well you can describe things. All right. So vocabulary is all about having the right words to fit the right places and to make it all come together. The last thing we have, and almost one of the most important things, is the grammatical range. When I say grammatical range, I mean that your grammar needs to be perfect. If you're talking about a person who's a boy, then you use masculine nouns. If you're talking about an object, then you must use neutral nouns. Things like that, but even more. All right. So we're done with the grading system. If there are any questions, you can unmute yourself without any hesitation, and you can also put it through the comment section. I will be waiting and I will be going through them side by side, so we have no confusion whatsoever. Now, if you know how they're grading you in Ielts, do you know how to improve yourself in it? This is a very important question, and it's important that you have somewhat of an answer to this. So let's ask Ahlam. Ahlam, do you know how to improve yourself in these grade pointers?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, we just discussed how IELTS speaking is graded. So can you tell me some ways that you can improve yourself?
In speaking,
Yes.
I think we should focus on practice every day. That's very important. Also, improve my academic vocab, and I try to use it when I practice every day. Yes, I think also should focus how to build, how to improve my confidence. Sometimes I have all vocab. I know all grammatical structures, but if you have weak confidence, I think you will lose all marks, all grades.
Perfect. That is solid advice. And I love how much you spoke about this, because this was all super insightful. Now, let's look into some of the tips I gathered for it, some which are very common to what Ahlam said. Sorry, I keep messing up your name for some reason. Now, for vocabulary, like Ahlam said, we should practice strong vocabulary, which means using strong adjectives to define things, using idioms, connectives, and adverbs. Adverbs are words that are used to describe a verb. For example, quickly. That's an adverb. He was running quickly. An idiom is a phrase. For example, she was silent as a doormat. A connective is a word that connects two different sentences. For example, she is going to the beach and she will be staying all day. The word and connected two sentences, and that shows great vocabulary. Now, let's talk about some grammar tips. What you want to do is use different types of sentences: simple, complex, connected, and make sure that your tenses are always accurate. If you're talking about the past, it should be in the past tense. If you're talking about the future, it should be in the future tense. It's very important. Now, moving on to pronunciation, we have easiest way is to just consume English media. You want to speak slowly but clearly, and you don't have to worry about your accent as long as you are clear in your sounds and your pronunciation. All right? So if you think that your accent will be a reason that you will be graded less, that is not how it works. All you need to do is speak slowly and clearly. Now, fluency, the best way to ace that part is to stop using your filler words. For example, using like, I like to, I just like sit there. This shows poor fluency that you cannot make your sentences or some logical sense. So focus on the quality of speaking instead of the quantity. Now we've gone through this, revised everything, and now it's time to warm up our speaking skills. And with that, I have a quick exercise that's very easy. Now you see this photo, right? I hope it's in front of everybody. And if you are seeing this, then I want you to describe this photo in 3 sentences. Now, comments are open for this, as well as the mics. So, Alanud, would you like to start?
Yes.
Can you describe this photo in 3 sentences?
3 sentences. A chef tried to cook.
All right, that's 1 sentence. What else can you say about this?
I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about this.
All right. Ahmed, would you like to add another sentence to what Alanud already said?
Just 1 sentence.
Yeah. A sentence to describe this.
The chef, the chef is trying to cook something, and he wearing a white dress, and he in hand have fried. That's all.
That's great. Now a new participant, Nora. Nora, would you like to add a sentence to describe this scene? I believe Nora is not available at the moment. Now, let's see how I would be describing this photo in 3 sentences. The first thing I would say is that this picture shows a chef cooking in a restaurant kitchen. He is holding a saucepan which is on fire, but he is smiling. The scene shows an intense cooking session at the restaurant. All right. As you see, there were connectives, there were adjectives, there were a lot of grammar going on. Now, another one that we can do. Now, this one is a video, and I want you to describe this video in 3 sentences. Now, starting with Ahlam. Ahlam, would you like to say 3 sentences to describe this?
Yeah, the father plays with his daughter in the garden. Yeah, I think that's it.
What else can you add to it? Let's talk about what the garden looks like, huh?
I don't know how to describe which kind of play.
Okay, I'll help you cheat a little bit. So, how about you talk about where they're sitting?
Sitting?
Yeah, where are they sitting?
They're sitting in the garden.
Yes, that's a great way. Now
Yeah.
you can say they are sitting on a patch of green grass in their garden.
Yeah,
Make
exactly.
sense? Now,
Yeah,
now let's add another sentence from Ahmed. Ahmed, would
they
you like to
they
add a
enjoy they
Yes.
enjoy in their time.
Amazing, amazing. Those are 3 sentences. This was great. Now, time to practice some grammar, you guys. They are sitting in the garden, of course. I love the comments pouring through and I'm reading them. All right. Now we are moving on to some practice of English grammar. Now, grammar can seem complicated for many people, but trust me, once you know exactly what you need, this will be easy. Now, here are some gaps, and we will go through this one by one. I will be wanting the answers in the comments as well as unmuting yourself and letting me know. Okay? Now, the first one is he works dash a chef. The options that you have here are as and an. So what should we put here? I want you to comment them. Even attendees of the Zoom meeting, I want you to put them in the chat. Let's see your answers pour in. Great, we have first answer. Good, good, good. Great. Now, people. Okay, so the 3 answers that we got in the chat were as, which is correct. He works as a chef. Now, moving on to the second one. She is responsible, dash, taking care of the car. The options we have is for or with. Oh, great. That's some speedy answers, you guys. I'm proud of you. She's responsible for taking care of the car. This is amazing again. The third one. We dash at the mall yesterday. Okay. We have one answer. And we have the second. I see Aisha is also putting in answers. Great, great, great. Past tense. So you guys are all correct. And I see this is a walk in the park for you, huh? So we met at the mall yesterday. Now, the fourth one we have is I enjoy dash in the lake. And the word is swim. So what do we do with swim here? We have an answer. Great, Aisha. Swimming, you say? Okay, Sajda also thinks it's swimming. Okay, the verb should have an ing, so the word should be swimming, and all of you are correct. Ahmed, this won't be swam because we're talking about a present tense. And swam would be past. So I enjoy swimming in the lake. A very easy mistake to make, very understandable as well. Now let's move on to the fifth one. She is an dash person. Charming or interesting? Okay, we have some answers pouring in. Let's see what we have here. Okay, everybody said interesting because that's a great catch, you guys. Now let's move on to number 6. We postponed dash to the vacation because Alice was sick. What should we do here? The word is go. Okay, so a couple of you are saying went. Let's see more answers pour in, and then we will review the correct one, or if it's fine. Going to, nice. So there's went or there's going to. Going. All right, so 3 people said going, and 2 people said went. Now, sad news for the went people, because that's the wrong answer. It will be we postponed going to the vacation because Alice was sick. The reason? Because the tenses aren't matching. Now, let's check number 7. He dash tell a lie because it will be caught. He should tell a lie or he wouldn't tell a lie. Now, this one is more logical, you guys. Wouldn't. Going is the correct answer, Sajda, if that's what you're asking. Okay, now let's see. What about wouldn't or shouldn't? We have one wouldn't so far. Are you guys stumped at that one? I feel like no answers are gonna pour in for this except for Ahmed. And if that's the case, then I will talk about the answer now. Okay, Aisha said wouldn't. Okay, it's difficult to choose. Yeah, you're right. This one is kind of difficult. Now, the answer for this would be wouldn't. Now, the reason we say this is because he wouldn't tell a lie because it will be caught. Now, if there's a situation where you will be caught, you would not be lying instead of you would actually be lying. So this was a logical twist. Okay? Now, 8th one. I think this is easier. She dash all her money on gambling. And the word is spend. So what should we do here? She is spending. Okay. Aisha says spent. Okay, Sajda says spending. Now, Emma, let me tell you that you cannot add more words, but you can adjust the one that I've given in the options. So is will not be coming in here. So what do you do with your word now? Let's see. Now the answer to this one would be spent. Yes, you guys are right. Now, Sasha, the reason this wouldn't be spending is because there is no additive word in here in between, because it would require she is spending, right? Now, moving on to number 9. She moved here from dash India. She moved here from the India. She moved here from an India. Or should there be no changes at all? She moved here from India. If you think it's no changes, just write none. Okay, so 2 votes for the, 1 for none. Okay. All right. Let's wait in for some more answers before we reveal. A country doesn't need the article. Well, Alon, you're coming in with the technical stuff. I'm really good to see this. None. All right. Another user says none. Okay, so 2 people say none. Wait, 3 people say none. And 2 say the. Now the winner is no changes at all because a country is a personal pronoun. Okay, it's a specific noun and it does not require an article. No country requires an article. Okay, so if it said any other country instead of India, it says Germany or Canada, there would be no articles added to it. Now, the last one we have practicing here is There are boats on dash River Thames. On the River Thames or on a River Thames. Another one related to a specific noun. Okay, Aisha says the. Ahmed also says the. Lam also says the. Okay, everyone's saying the. And let me congratulate all of you because the answer is right. It will be the. Now let's look at the answers. You guys all got it right almost. A few of you messed up like one or two maybe, which is great news because making one or two errors means you're still gonna get 8 bands or above, especially in the grammar part. Great? Now, let's move on to talk about work. If there are any questions, please ask me. I will be answering. Okay. Now, when I say let's talk work, I mean it because the topic of work is one of the most common topics that are available when you're giving your IELTS speaking test. Talking about work is mainly the part 1 of the speaking session, okay? And here are the 4 common work questions that they ask you. The first one that they ask you is, what do you do for a living? Now, I want everyone to comment what they do for a living. If I asked you as an IELTS instructor, hey, what do you do for a living? What will you be saying to me? And please also comment that in the live chat. So please talk about what you do for a living. If you'd like to have more confidence and you want to talk more about it, I want you to unmute yourself if you want, and then you can quickly go one by one. Ahlam, would you like to go first? Ahmed, would you like to talk about what you do for a living? Let's start talking and practicing this.
Yeah. Of course, if you want to live for a long time, you must first eating a healthy food and eating every day all meals. And the second things, I think you must have a friend and a good society around you. Don't live alone. As we know, if you are living alone without friend, without communicate with people, you will feel like boring. You want to die and something like that.
All right.
I think that's
All
all.
right. Yes, that is a good answer. However, it was a little bit irrelevant to this, and I feel like there's been a translation problem. When we say living, what we basically mean is, what do you do for work? Like, where do you work? What do you do? Sort of career wise. Okay. So, with that in mind, let's check some phrases that you can use to describe this. Okay. Here are some sentences that you should be using. Now, when they ask, what do you do for a living? You want to say, I work as a, and then add your profession to it. You can say, I'm a doctor, I'm a student, any of that. Now, the third sentence that you can talk about when they ask you, what do you do for a living, is to say, I work at the bank or I work at the school, things like this. And the last phrase to use in such an if you don't work or if you're not a student, you can say that I'm a stay-at-home mom, if that applies to you. Or you can say, I don't particularly do anything for a living. I stay at home. All right? You can simply go for the second sentence is to say, I'm a stay-at-home person. I don't work. You know? Now, let's move on to the second one, right? But first, before that, let me fill in these sentences to show you how this applies. And I'll talk about myself with this. Now, they say, what do you do for a living? I could say, I work as a teacher. Or I could say, I am a teacher. Or I could say, I work at the school. Or I could say, I work in the teaching industry and I teach students how to ace their Ielts exam. Understand that? Now, let's move on to the second question. And the second question we have, why do you choose to do that type of work? Like, why do you do that job? Why do you teach? Right? Now, with that, I want Alanud to try to answer this question. Okay? So, Alanud,
Yes.
why do you do that job?
For money.
Okay. Can you elaborate on this?
Yeah.
Pretend we're
How?
having an exam right now.
Mm?
So, let me ask you, what do you do for a living?
Can you explain more?
Yes. Okay. So when I say, what do you do for a living? I mean, what is your job?
Yes. I still student.
Okay. You're still a student, so you don't work. Okay. So the
Yeah.
second question does not apply to you. So tell me, what is your dream career?
During career, like what I'm gonna be in the future.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to be a doctor.
Okay. And why do you want to be a doctor?
I don't know.
Someone must have their reasons. Come on.
For my parents.
Okay. Your parents are a contributing factor to being a doctor. Now let's see
Yes.
how you can put some phrases in here. Oops. We are having the other one. Okay, let's see this one. Now you can say, I've been doing this job for X many years and I love it because it makes my parents proud. Right?
Yes.
Or you could
Yes.
say it's challenging, but it's rewarding to me because I get to do something that my parents wanted me to do. And I help the world. Or if you have no interest in your job whatsoever, which honestly I can understand, some people just don't like their jobs. You can say, I think because it pays the rent and it makes me money, because it pays the bill for me. You can simply say that there is no shame and nobody can stop you in what you have to say. Now, the third question we have is, what are your responsibilities at your job? Okay, so now we have Fatma. Fatma, could you unmute and talk about what are your responsibilities at your job? I believe Fatma is unavailable at the moment. So should we move to Sajda? Sajda, would you like to unmute? All right, then I guess I will be doing this myself. Now, if they say, what are your responsibilities? Here are some 5 sentences that you can use to get your way out of this question. Now you say, I have to do XXXX things. For example, if I'm a teacher and they ask me what are my responsibilities, I can say I have to teach students how to speak well and how to perfect their grammar so that they can ace their exams. Now, the second one is that I'm responsible for overlooking students' education because that relates to teaching. The third one that we have is that it's up to me to ensure that things at work are smoothly going. Now, what things, for example, if I'm talking about myself, I would say it's up to me to ensure that my students are equipped with giving the exam and that those are going smoothly. All right. The last one is a very plain one, is that you can simply say my main duties or my main responsibilities at work are to teach and to grade exams and to offer help to my students. Right? Very simple, very easy. You don't need to elaborate too much on it. Now, as Ahlam once said, what if you don't work? What do you say? Here are some very, very common answers. As you see, Ahlam, this might be super useful for you. So you can say, I'm unemployed at the moment, or I'm looking for a job, or you can say, I'm transitioning careers. For example, if you are a writer who is becoming a teacher, then you can say, oh, I'm transitioning careers into teaching. Or you can say, I'm not working at the moment, I am a housewife, or I am a student. If you're trying to find a job, you can say, I'm in between jobs. Okay. For older people, which I don't think that any of us are, but still, is that actually I'm retired. So I don't work anymore. But before I retired, I was a teacher. That is a great answer, Sarsa. I strive for myself to work. Now, these are the 4 main questions that they ask you when they're talking about work, right? They can also ask you what your dream job is, if you love your job or not. And if they ask you if you love your job or not, you can just simply use the second question that we used, the same templates. Because you can say, yes, I love my job because it helps me make my parents proud. Or you can say, I don't love my job because it's a bit stressful. Now, we're going to move on to some phrases. All right. Now, before I start this video, I want to talk about some important phrases to use during the IELTS speaking test. Now, I want us to watch this useful video on the 5 phrases that you can use, and this lady will be explaining these phrases with some examples. Now, let's watch this video. Let's see if there is sound. Oh, they moved this backwards. Let's see if you can hear it now. Tell me if you do.
I'm going to talk about the populist.
No sound at all. Okay, let me see if my screen sharing is being the problem here. Okay. Let's look into this. I hope that you can hear it now. Okay, great, great.
I'm going to talk about a popular TV show in my country. I'm not really a fan of this show, but it's hugely popular in my country. I can't think of anything else to add, really. Let me give you an example. Last Saturday, I was supposed to meet a friend of mine for lunch. What else can I say? Oh, I also keep a lot of important information in the phone, like phone numbers, emails, even bank details.
Now, have you guys understood the phrases that they used in the video? These are some very, very common. Yes, okay, this is great because you will find yourself using them one way or another when you're learning or when you're basically going through your exam. Okay, so use these as a crutch whenever you feel like you're lost or you how to start a sentence, how to start talking about a topic, how to finish it up. These are very important for it. Now, let's talk word part 2. Now, in this one, oh, is this a video again? Yes. Let's look at the tips. Here are some model answers to a question that they're going to give you in a cue card. Now, cue cards are given to you in part 2.
Well, my leisure time activity.
Okay. We want to pause this for a minute at the cue card so that we can look at it properly. Now, this is a cue card which says, describe what you usually do in your leisure time. You should say what you do, who you do it with, and where you do it. Now, Fatma, do you know the meaning of leisure time? Does anybody know the meaning of leisure time? Okay, Fatma does not. Ahmed, do you know? Yes, leisure time does mean free time. That is correct, Fatma. Thank you for your input. Because leisure time, yes, spare time, whenever you're free, when you don't have anything to do, that's your leisure time. Okay, so what do you do in your free time, in your spare time? Okay, this is the card. And once we are done with this video, I want to go through with each of you and have you explain this to me. Okay? The last thing they want you to do is explain why you like to spend your free time this way. So let's start.
Well, my leisure time activities have changed so much since the outbreak of the coronavirus. Before COVID, I used to go out with friends for coffee and go to the cinema. During the COVID lockdowns, I couldn't really do any of those things, so I took up a new hobby. I started my own blog. So now, whenever I have some free time, I work on my blog. The blog is mainly about movie actors and acting techniques. So I do lots of research and also learn new IT skills. It's very interesting because I can learn some fascinating things about my favorite stars. Besides writing for my blog, I sometimes play some indoor games with my friends and family members, things like chess and computer games. Another thing I like to do in my free time is read books. Again, this was an activity I got into when I had to go into self-isolation after coming back to my country from a trip abroad. I didn't want to just spend all my time watching Netflix, so I ordered some books on Amazon. It really helped me to cope with the quarantine. I mostly read non-fiction books and historical books, as I find them more practical than fiction. Let's see, what else? Oh yes, cooking. I really enjoy creating my own healthy dishes. And again, surprise, surprise, I started doing this while I was stuck at home during lockdown. Why do I like these activities? Well, obviously, as I mentioned, I can do them indoors. They help me to cope with isolation. And in the case of cooking healthy dishes, obviously this has another benefit. It keeps me healthy and boosts my immune system, which is very important these days.
Now, let's go to the cue card. And let's start by asking Ahlam. Ahlam, do you want to use this cue card and talk about what you do in your leisure time?
Yes, yes. Start now?
Yes, you can start now.
Okay. Which things I can use?
You can use whichever you would like to do.
Not specific one.
No, nothing
Okay.
specific.
Okay. In my leisure time, I always prefer to reading books. I'm keen on reading books. I read at least one book in each week. I prefer to read books that related to self-care, if you can say that, that interested to improve myself and
I believe there's some internet problem, Ahlam. Your voice is not reaching me properly. I'm going to mute you temporarily.
self-confidence. Sometimes in my leisure time, friends hello.
Okay, can you speak again? Let's see. Okay, no, there is still some internet problem at your end. Now, but your answer, it was quite good and quite on topic. All right. So now, we've seen a model answer on a video. We've practiced it. And with that, we come to the end of our speaking club today. So thank you everybody for attending and thank you for participating in it. It was a great session and it was super productive because we practiced a lot of things. And I hope you feel the same way and that it helped you a lot. If there are any questions, you can ask me in your chat or in the comments. Thank you, Alam. I really appreciate your participant. This has been great and a very successful session. Now, if anybody doesn't have any questions, then we will be ending our session. Thank you for attending and thank you for participating. This was great, and I will see you in the next speaking session. Have a great night, you guys.